Well, Scooty. Well, Scooty.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the debut show for here called The Interviews. The idea being that I will sit down once a week with streamers, gamers, and hopefully game devs at some point and talk about the industry, talk about themselves, talk about why they got into it. But I honestly could not think of a better way to start this series than someone who I've known now for, I guess, over about a year and a half, and I've considered, I've come to consider a good friend, and that is Dizzy Dizaster, otherwise known as Dizaster Dizzy on Twitter. So you make that flip, folks, because you're going to piss somebody off if you don't.
You're going to be following somebody who doesn't use Twitter.
Yeah, really. And along with him is his beautiful wife, Mieu, otherwise known as Mieu Cosplay on Twitter. One of the best cosplayers that I've seen in some time. I loved your stuff for BlizzCon, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do for PAX East. And of course, the queen of the house, we have Scootaloo. Yes, the queen. The queen is in the house. Anyway, like I said, this is just like a chill conversation for Sunday afternoon. Get to know. Thanks, Spritz, for following.
Woo, Spritzy.
So we kind of get to know the people behind that camera that we watch every night playing games that we love, or maybe don't love so much, but we like the person. I guess kind of start this off, Dizzy. Like, how long have you been gaming? Like, what's your gaming history?
Well, I mean, I grew up on kind of the tidal wave of gaming in terms of when the consoles were coming out, I was playing them. I mean, I didn't have an Atari. I had a friend who had an Atari, so I played that. But we somehow, I mean, we weren't exactly the wealthiest family in the world, like most people. But we had an NES, and, we had friends who had a Super Nintendo, so we played that. We eventually got that, and I got an N64 as my birthday and Christmas gift one year. It was made very clear that was my gift for both holidays by my parents. And I mean, I've kind of been on the generation with consoles, like following that everybody else. But once PCs came out and they hit hard, I mean, that's what I did, and I jumped into it way early. Like, I was playing MMOs back in Veg would know calendar was 96, 97 when they were first hitting. So PC gaming, in terms of the internet, I've been here since the very beginning of it.
So you would say basically MMOs were your introduction to your gaming life?
To social gaming, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. What about Mieu? What was your first game, and like how long have you been gaming?
So kind of similar to Dizzy, I kind of grew up with it. So we got a console for Christmas every year that was like the family gift. And I'm in a house full of girls, so we were all playing, but it was mostly me. I kind of hogged it, but and it was funny because like after we'd go to bed, we'd have a certain save point in like Donkey Kong or whatever. I'd wake up and I found out like my parents just beat the whole game. And we were so upset about that. But yeah, I mean, we had like an NES, an SNES. We had a Genesis for a little bit, and then we went the PlayStation route from there. And then I, kind of jumped into PC when I was, I think, like 12, when Diablo 2 came out. I played that. I just played the heck out of it, and that was kind of my introduction to social gaming. I actually was one of the few people that used the chat and everything, and hung out in the chat rooms that were on BattleNet at the time. So that's kind of where I got my fix online. And then Ben and I met in 2006, and we've been kind of doing the MMO thing.
Yeah, like I know there's a rather interesting story about how you two met, and I want to hear both sides of the story because I know there's a difference.
Oh, all right. Let me tell my side first because
Yes.
her side is funnier than mine. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Well, you should be, and I don't know about the audience. Ragnarok Online. You know, it's a pretty big Korean MMO. For a while there, I mean, it was one of those games where you went into and you could kill the same, what they were called pourings, for hours and hours and hours and hours to get what they call a pouring card, which was like a rare drop, and it would take you forever to do it. So you could pay for this game, take forever to farm absolutely every minuscule thing, and spend your life on this game, or you could find what they call a Ragnarok shard, which wasn't exactly what I would call a legal form of the game, but you could go on there and they have better rates of drops, better rates of spawn, better rates of loot, and you go on there and you have a much more relaxed experience, but it's the same game essentially, but modified by whoever runs the server. So we found a really good server that had some really good rates on it. Me and a bunch of other people, outcasts from another game we were playing, and we went on there and we were looking it up in Google, and I said, "Wow, that's a great server. That's got great rates." You know, it was 11, 11, 11, and 11's my lucky number. So I was like, "That's good." And I looked and I saw one of the admins, and I was like, "Oh, she lives in the area. We should go on the server, and she's pretty cute." So we went on there and we're playing around, and eventually that's how I met her. But her part of the story where we actually did meet is funnier, so I won't even.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I guess it starts, you know, I was like a freshman in college, I think, at the time, and I just started playing Ragnarok. I had gotten into it from some previous friends that I had from the college that I was attending at the time, and I ended up getting into it like pretty much full bore, and I started working on the server just kind of as a PR and then as an admin, and I was doing scripting and everything, so I was kind of like helping to run it, really, and then so I get to know like a lot of the players. I mean, it's not a huge server. I think
really
like
tied the room together, did it?
We had about 700 concurrent players or something like that. But you got to know people when you're kind of a PR person. So there was this one guy who kept, you know, showing up, and I gave out like my MSN and all of my social media and everything so that people could contact me with whatever they needed. And so he was like messaging me on MSN, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, my friend lives like right near you. How about that? You know, like what a coincidence. That's so cool. You know, you guys should hang out." And I'm just like, okay, yeah, cool. Like I'm like, I'm not being paid, but I was like, I'm supposed to be nice to everybody. So I mean, he was cool and all. Like, he was a nice guy, but I mean, you know, everybody who says, you know, they wanted to hang out or meet me or whatever, you know.
Just for the record, that was not me contacting her.
No, it wasn't. It was somebody else. And so eventually, like, he was working like 11 to 2 a.m. at the time. So he was working the absolute, sorry, school. The absolute I like smacked her in the face.
She's all right.
The absolute like graveyard shift at work, and so I had pretty normal hours, so we never crossed paths online. Like, he finally added me like probably weeks into this other guy like chatting with me, and then finally we started talking. We agreed to meet, and that's kind of how it started. So his friend kind of like got me to agree to meet up with him.
So
like our first date, we were just kind of driving around, and I think, you know, the thing that stuck with me was at one point he said, "Now I'm going to take you to where I bury the bodies."
Bonus.
Yeah.
So Dizzy,
And she goes, "Okay."
So
I was like, I kind of looked him up and down, and I was like, I can take him.
Yeah. So Dizzy, how much did you pay your wingman for that introduction?
Oh, Ryuke? Oh, dude, he's my man. I met him on Nexus. Veg knows him. He basically grew up with me, looking at me, because the game that we played before we went to Ragnarok, I had a bit of a community there that knew who I was, and he kind of fell into that community, and he's like, "Oh!" And I'm like, "Dude, relax." So I kind of took him under my wing, and he became a friend of mine, and I'm still friends with, he pops in here every now and then, but, yeah, I said to him, I go, "Hey, dude, could you do me a favor? And you know, you're on later than I am. Could you message her and tell her, you know, what's up?" So I basically said, what was it? Well, how old was he? 13?
Yeah,
12?
He was like super young.
To go introduce myself to
I'm
her.
like, okay, yeah, all right, okay. You know, he was cool. He was funny. I mean, he was like the meme master, so he was funny.
Yeah, right.
He kept
He's a
me
wordsmith.
engaged in the conversation, so.
Yeah. Okay. Just out of curiosity, how important is gaming and the gaming culture to your guys' relationship? Like, is it an integral part, or is it a byproduct of the relationship, or is it just part of your everyday type of thing?
I mean, I can't remember a day where gaming wasn't part. I mean, outside of something, catastrophic that might have happened, but.
Well, what I would say is that even if we weren't together, we'd still be gaming.
For sure.
So it's a big source of like common ground, common interests, and so like we definitely. I mean, we played and raided in WoW. We led a WoW guild for 4 years, right? And I mean, we were pretty much.
It's more than that.
Yeah. I mean. But for a while we were gaming pretty much inseparably, like that's what we did together exclusively. And now we kind of do our own things. I mean, he's got the stream, and we play other games in our off time, but it's not like super integral, but it's definitely kind of like the foundation of our relationship.
It's conversation more often than not. I mean, to give you an idea of how WoW worked, she didn't want to go play WoW. When I met her in Ragnarok, we were playing that for a bit, and then I forget what we played after that. Dark Age of Camelot. And I saw right then and there how intensely she was in MMOs. And, I mean, to the point where I went to bed and I wake up and she would still do it. Now, I do that now, and I did that later, but in the beginning I saw this, and it was great. It was freaking awesome, because I was like, yes, I finally found somebody who's insanely into this stuff as I am, so I don't have to make excuses to play video games. And that was important to me, because I was never... I'm the sort of person where I never really, before her, had a relationship. It was very, very important to me that what I did and what I invested myself into, somebody who I was in a relationship with was invested into that. Now, everybody has their couple of week girlfriends or this, that, and the other thing. And I always got to the point where it got to, well, I played this game online, and it was always like, oh, that's great. And I was like, oh. And I kind of had a best friend who was like, oh, that's cool. And he let me do my thing. He wasn't so much into it. He is a little bit more now. But he was like, oh, okay. But I had some friends who were like, oh, you're going home to play online, huh? You're not going to hang out with us and get drunk. And I was like, yeah, no, I have a meeting in my, the merchants, we were called. I have to go home and meet with the merchants tonight. So... inevitably, after we played Ragnarok, we went to Dark Age of Camelot. She got much more into the PvP than I did, to the point where I almost felt a little bit, for a little time of it, excluded, because they were moving so fast, and I was trying to play every character to try to keep up, and I couldn't keep ahead of it, because she was so good at the game, and she was playing with people that were top-notch, and I just wasn't. So inevitably, I moved away from it, and she was like, I'm never playing WoW. I'm never playing WoW. And one day I was like, you want to play WoW? And I started playing it, she's like, fine.
It was a totally unfounded WoW hate at the time.
No,
it was cool to hate WoW at the time.
Yeah, right. Well, it's always cool to hate WoW.
Either played it or hated it.
Yeah.
And then we did that for a lot. I mean, I would say 4 years, 5 years.
Dark Age of Camelot?
No, WoW. Wow. We jumped in it because I played WoW in vanilla before I met her. And I raided in a hardcore guild, and we were in a guild that got like world 21st on NEF. I mean, who cares? But after that, I left because I went to go play Ragnarok with her. Then played Dark Age of Camelot. Then we came back, which would have been about midway through Burning Crusade, and did that all the way through Cataclysm. And after Cataclysm is when we kind of, we went back for a little bit, but.
Well, like, we see this a lot in chat where people come in, and they've been in relationships, and their better half, for lack of a term, isn't a gamer, and they end up changing their gaming lifestyle. What's your thoughts on people that say, if you want to be with me, you can't game, or you've got to I'm getting a definite no on both parties here.
I don't know. To me, I feel like if you're going to invest yourself into somebody, especially when it comes down to marriage, you're going to invest yourself into what their passions are. Now, some people, they game to a fault.
So, I mean, there's a balance. I want to say that there's a balance.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you remember now that I'm going to start talking about it. But at the beginning of our relationship, I don't know if you recall, you were playing a certain game, and I could not get your time. I think it was probably we met, we started hanging out, started dating, and then all of a sudden, off the map.
Oh yeah, Heroes of Might Magic 5.
Yeah.
If you ever played Heroes of Might Magic, you understand.
I was like, all right, if he's not interested,
I remember that. Heroes of Might Magic 5, believe it or not. Yeah. I don't even think about that series anymore.
Yeah. I was like, okay, if he's not interested, then, whatever. And I kind of called him out on it. I was like, dude,
there was a pretty interesting phone call.
Are you done or what? And he was just like, oh, shit.
Yeah, there is a balance. I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. But to a point where, I think she understood that it was important to me. Like, this was an important part of my life. This is something that I've done since the very beginning. And honestly, I don't think I could have anybody in my life who didn't at least accept that. And like I said, my good friend for many years didn't game. But he understood that it was important to me. So he was like, all right, cool. And I mean, there was some times where he said to me, dude, can we just hang out instead of you going home every night? And I had to make that decision. And he's still a good friend to me. And he's a pretty hardcore gamer now himself. So it's funny how things come full circle. But I don't know. Can a relationship work without somebody enjoying what another person does? Absolutely. But not for me.
Now,
Yeah, you gotta make time.
Mieu, you're known as the lady behind the green screen, affectionately in chat on Dizzy's channel. How has Dizzy being on camera for 4 hours a night, 7 nights a week? How has that changed the way you do things, the way you live your life, or like what effect does having that green screen behind you, affect you?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, good and bad, but not like horrible. I not to like kind of toot my own horn or anything like that, but I'm pretty low maintenance. I don't really make a lot of demands on his time. I never have. Even when he was like in the very beginning of our relationship, when he was obsessed with that one game, I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. I was like, if he doesn't want to hang out, but whatever, but I can take a hint, like that kind of thing. So, him having his own thing to do, I have things that I want to do that he doesn't want to be involved with, or I don't really need him involved with. I feel like when you're together for as long as we have been, which is like going to be 9 years this year,
yep.
You kind of get into this vein where you're doing everything together, doing all these games together, and then you kind of split off and you're like, you have your own interests. You can't always go on the same track in terms of your hobbies, and I think that's just natural. Right. So I mean, just he always makes time for me if I demand it, which is rare. Having the green screen, nice, a lot of privacy. I can't really throw any wild parties, darn, but it's not a difficult thing to work around.
Yeah, and I mean the green screen, crazily enough, was kind of like, it was something like I knew that was the direction I wanted to go. And there's a lot of people who don't go green screen, but that was the direction I wanted to go. And I kind of came home one day and she was like, I got you a green screen. I was like, awesome. Like, you can't ask for a better relationship than that. Like, that's so important and awesome to me that somebody would go out of their way and just be like, I heard something that you said that's important to you, and I just went and took the extra initiative. And she's very much like that with this. And there was a lot of conversations in the beginning, and not so much now because I think there's an understanding, but in the beginning, I said to her, listen, I had a big night with this. I really enjoy this. This is my creative energy output. If there is ever a conflict where it comes between a snoring pug, where it comes between our relationship and this, that you're my priority. And she says, don't worry about it, I will let you know. And in the beginning, it really was like, I'm investing a lot of time in this. And it was like, I was like, and she goes, you're using your creative energy, just go for it.
It's hard when you see somebody being so happy. He's finally got something to put all of his creative energy into. Like, how could I possibly say no? Like, it makes me so happy to see him so happy. And it's not an inconvenience or like a burden on me. So, why would I, try to make that difficult for him?
Now,
yeah.
I know, Mieu, that you're not a streamer and such, but you are a very creative person, especially when it comes to the world of cosplay. What brought you into that area? Like, what was it about cosplay that sparked your creative juices?
So, for me, I was much more into like traditional art when I was younger, and that kind of like petered off kind of as I got a job and responsibilities. Can't just sit around drawing and sculpting and stuff like that.
You probably could have.
But I didn't really pursue it. I'm kind of a big person, kind of a little tangent. I feel like if I have to do something, I feel burnt out, like I might get burnt out. So it's always purely recreational for me. It's on my own terms. But cosplay was something that I was super interested in since like high school. I had friends who were cosplayers, but I never, of course, had the money. And my family was going through some stuff in high school where, it was just never you know, I was never in a position to like go to conventions and spend money on cosplay or anything like that. But I was always a huge fan. And last year, actually the year before that, I kind of found this group online on a meetup. They're bronies, and so we started hanging out, and I'm a brony, so and they were all so cool, and we're all super close now. And so I was like, wow, you know, I actually have people to go to conventions with, and that's kind of where it started. It actually started last year in like June. All of a sudden, I like told my sister, hey, I'm gonna go to Kineticon, and I'm gonna be dressed as Rarity from My Little Pony, and she was like, oh my god, I'm gonna go with you, and I'm gonna dress as Rarity's little sister, Sweetie Belle. And I was like, okay, so that's kind of like where we started. And I literally started like middle of last year, and I love it. It was something that I'd always wanted to do, and it's just like, and now like it takes up all my time. So,
just to sort of branch out here for that, what's your feeling on, like, I cover this a lot through Geek Dimensions because I love cosplay, I really do, and I've shared, you know, on a few occasions links of cosplay that I've liked with you. What is your feeling on the harassment that happens at conventions?
Really tied the room together, did it?
Around the female cosplayers. Like, it bothers me to the point where I think sometimes cosplay is over sexualized. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but what are your thoughts on that kind of thing?
You know, I'll be honest, I haven't been on the receiving end of anything too horrible. The cons that I go to are pretty small, pretty tame. BlizzCon. And yeah, BlizzCon was big, but I think the kind of cosplay that I wore to BlizzCon was like you couldn't even get within a 10-foot radius of it without getting your eye poked out. So
armor.
I mean, you know, and I guess that's a good point. I mean, it's kind of on both ends of the extreme. You know, I go to small cons where, you know, everybody's cosplaying, varying degrees of skill and varying degrees of, you know, revealing costumes and things like that. And in BlizzCon, where it's like all professional cosplayers, and nobody would dare like approach or touch or do anything to these girls, you know, just because there's a huge amount of respect for what they do. And while I haven't really been witness to it, I mean, I don't see a problem with, you know, a level of sexualized costumes or anything like that. You know, you can look, but nobody is entitled to touch. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And, you know, if you feel the need to say a comment to somebody, you know, come on. If you wouldn't say it to like your friend, your female friend, then you probably shouldn't say it. I mean, people just need to exercise common sense. A lot of people are just doing it for shock factor, I feel. So, I mean, that's really, I mean, it's not good, but I don't feel like it's the majority. But, you know, the negative events will stand out to people. Nobody wants to have to deal with that. So, you know, that's the kind of thing. I don't feel like it's a hostile environment. I think that everybody loves, I mean, the reception that I've gotten and has been nothing but positive. Everybody's super excited to see cosplayers. So, you know, I don't feel like that it's, negative.
Now, just so the audience knows, what did you go to BlizzCon as?
I actually wore the Tier 1 Warrior armor set from World of Warcraft. So it's just like head to toe armor, and the shoulder pads have just these spikes sticking out at all angles. I was pretty proud of it. It was my first time doing a set of armor, but yeah.
So I gather that the response to your cosplay at BlizzCon was pretty awesome.
I was pretty surprised.
Well, I'm actually going to go in on that, but I do want to weigh in just a second on that consent thing. At BlizzCon, when we were there was signs up, and there was people actively saying, and on all the flyers that said, if you want to so much as take a picture of somebody in a cosplay, you need to ask their permission. If you don't, you will be removed from the premises. Mm-hmm. It was very, very clear where Blizzard and the venue stood on that sort of behavior.
Good.
So they were very good about being proactive about that. And with that being said, everybody asked. There was maybe 100, 150 different people who took pictures with her.
Yep, and definitely I think that kind of factors into it. When I say that I don't feel like there's like a negative atmosphere, I never at any point felt like I wouldn't be backed up by the venue or the security if I did have a problem. Yep. You know, I knew that, you know, I'm standing there with like hundreds of people around me. You know, people would not stand for anything too drastic, really. And people did. I mean, people who are too shy to ask for photos would like kind of hang around.
Hover.
And then one person would ask me for a photo, and all of a sudden all the cameras would come out. And it was just, I was like, okay, I never try to like make myself feel unapproachable, but some people are a little shy. So.
And people would ask me because I almost looked like in the first day, her armor, she used hot glue, and we were out in Anaheim heat, so some of the armor was starting to go whoop. So electrical tape, and I was kind of like triage, just going and going and going and keeping the armor moving. For the most part, it stayed together really good until like later on the shoulders just went. But which is why she didn't end up going into the cosplay costume contest, which is a bummer. But what are you gonna do? But for the most part. It was just people would come up, they would take their pictures. Other cosplayers were no problem. They're like, I want to take a picture with you. And it'd be people in just like stuff that was just like, that's real armor, dude.
Yeah, like
that's real armor. And you want to take a picture with her? Like not to knock your cosplay down because you worked very hard on it. But oh my god,
I was like in shock to some of the people that approached me. I was just like, like in shock. I think I just kind of like gushed on people and probably creeped them out.
There was a guy from Blizzard. He was the community manager for World of Warcraft who walked up to her, and I didn't know who it was until I looked him up after. He had a Blizzard shirt on though, so I looked him up after. He walked up to her and he goes, "That is the best cosplay I've ever seen in my life. That's it." And he walks away.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. I was like.
Didn't you say it was because I had a perky pug? I had like a little pug
People went
plushie.
nuts. She brought a plushie of Scootaloo, a little perky pug, and if you've played World of Warcraft, then you understand what a perky pug is.
Yes.
And she held that in her hand, and it was just the contrast of this tiny little pug plushie versus this girl who she went as a night elf in warrior might armor. It was just awesome. Like, I might be biased, but I saw a lot of really cool costumes there. Hers it was awesome. And I knew that everything about it. So
now I know you went to BlizzCon as part of another thing, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Okay.
That was your first real con, was it not, Dizzy?
Second. I actually went to GameStop Con.
Oh yeah,
a little
that's
before
right.
that. But GameStop Con, if any of you have ever been there, it's GameStop employees mostly, and it's a couple of people from the industry walking around. Like I saw Angry Joe there. I walked by, I said hi to him. I got a lot of FaceTime with the PC vendors. A lot of FaceTime. I actually met Alex from Calypso there, and I talked to him for probably over an hour, and him and his buddy from, I don't remember the name of the company, but I wouldn't say it anyway, were just walking to the back and taking shots out of a Soko bottle. Going, nobody's bothering us, so we're just gonna get destroyed here. And that was awesome.
Yeah. What was it about streaming a game that really caught your fancy? Like, what is it about streaming? And like, I think you've been streaming now for over a year and a half, around a year and a half.
July 31st to be 2 years.
Yeah. What is it about streaming that gets you going?
Well, I mean, I enjoy playing the game, and I always have crazy reactions. I'm very, right now I'm a little bit more laid back and kind of relaxing, and people say, "Oh, he looks nervous." I'm very calm right now. When I'm playing the games, I'm very expressive to the point where when I'm mildly perturbed by something, people think I'm raging about it. When I'm excited by something, people think I'm off the wall, which I'm talking to a bunch of people who watch me regularly as well, so they know what I'm talking about. But I'm playing these video games anyway, and I'm usually playing them with different people, like Degal. Degal came from World of Warcraft and joined our community here and runs all our server stuff and everything. And I mean, I'm doing this anyway. I figured, why not put a camera on me while I'm doing it? And I also do very much so feed off the audience. When they're active, I go nuts.
What? Just to backtrack to cosplay for once, we have a question from chat. Have you both done or thought of doing a cosplay together, either the same game, theme, or otherwise?
I've never pressured him. I kind of proposed it a couple times. It's not on the horizon per se, but it's still on the table.
Yeah, PAX was a proposed one, but PAX has become something a little bit bigger now for our brand, if you will.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to make note to thank all the people that are following. I'm trying to keep the conversation going. I love you guys. Thank you very much. Okay, so you've been streaming for 2 years now, almost.
Yep.
And I know I've been watching you now since November of 2013.
Wow.
2013.
Yeah. That would have been right when I first started.
Yeah,
So that would have been right when I first started. So yeah, that makes sense.
You were playing Sim City, and I was going through a rough patch myself, and I was trying to find an escape, and Twitch came up on my radar, and I spent a lot of time going through different streamers, and you were playing Sim City one night, and I got to be honest, it wasn't so much the game that kept me there; it was you as the personality behind that camera that made it worth staying.
I appreciate that.
When it comes to streaming, what do you want out of this career? Because really, look, you have to understand, folks. Dizzy works an 8-hour job, 40-hour a week, regular life job.
Yep.
You come home every night, and you stream for another 4 hours every single night of the week, except when Game of Thrones is on.
Well, we still stream 4 hours that day, but
Yeah.
I have that day off. So
so you put a lot of your life into this, which I respect immensely. But what are you hoping to get out of this? Like what is your dream of what will happen here?
I will at least put it a little bit in the context so people don't think I'm living on Mars or anything. Because everybody wants to work their dream job. And for somebody to play video games for a living, woo! I mean, nobody plays video games for a living. It's not what they do. You know, working in this as much as I am, that it's not go live and everything's ready. We got all sorts of stuff working over here. We have pre-prep. We have green screen that needs to be fixed because it's not working. The lighting's not working. We have this that needs to be done, that needs to be done on top of everything that you're doing with your 8-hour job and managing your relationships and communicating with your family and eating and sleeping. I mean, it's easy to, woe is me. Poor me. I'm on the internet every night, But what would I like to make out of this? I would absolutely love for this to become my full-time job. The reason I would is because I think I have the energy and the power to make this something incredibly big. But I'm also realistic in that I know I need to eat. I'm not going to be able to survive on what Twitch and the subs pay me. Because it's not because you guys aren't extremely generous, because you're generous beyond the wildest imagination. It's ridiculous.
Mind-blowing, really.
I mean, I look at the numbers and I say, what am I doing that nobody else has done? I mean, you guys are insane. But I take that money very seriously, and I put it back into the community. 100% of it. And when it's anything other than that, like right now we're raising money to help recuperate costs for PAX, I make people aware of it. So I don't use any of that donation money toward that. And the other money goes toward paying the taxes on that, because this is all royalties. Nothing is I don't work for Twitch. They pay me a royalty fee based on the fact that they use my image to put advertisements next to. So it's hard to get to a point where it's self-sustaining. And most people don't do it by Twitch alone. They have to have extra things. Co-Carnage, for example, has his website where he has an access fee to that. Most of the big streamers have YouTubes that pay them as well. I have a YouTube thing going on, but my YouTube isn't exactly where I want it to be at this point. We're going to bring it up. I mean, I would love to make this my full-time gig so I could put the work in that it deserves. I think that a night that we have 500 people where I have to log off because I have to go to work, that's another potential X amount of follows that we could have had. While a night we have 15 people, we're not getting the foot traffic, and I get to stay late. It's kind of like, I mean, what are we doing? I mean, the numbers really convolute it, and a lot of it has to do with luck, and a lot of it has to do with who you know. And the fact of the matter is, and I've said this from the very beginning, I don't know anybody. I know nobody. I know you guys, and I met you guys through here. And I like doing it that way because I could say, we busted our ass to get where we are. And, I know the Fallout Zone and all those people I brought in there, and I know that a lot of them are the same way. They're not friends with anybody, but they want to become part of this, and they want to create something on their own, and they want to do it as a community, but on their own terms. And that's why the Fallout Zone that we've created is so successful.
What do you see for the, like looking a little bit in the crystal ball, where do you see the whole streaming thing headed? Like, is this just sort of a blip on the radar, or is this could this blow up to be, let's say, a major competitor against traditional broadcasting and entertainment?
I think it already is. I think it is a competitor, and in fact, I mean, I'm relatively small on the radar, and we've definitely had people in here who said, "I'm done with cable. I watch you, or I watch the Fallout Zone. I watch
Same here.
A bunch of different people." I mean, I don't even watch TV anymore. I watch it because I love hockey. If it wasn't for hockey and Game of Thrones, I wouldn't even have the TV in here anymore. It would be gone. I have no desire to watch anything on TV. If I want the news, it's on the internet. If I want anything else, it's on the internet. Twitter gets news better than and more unbiased than anything else anyway. But, it's so hard to tell with this industry.
The whole world gone crazy.
10 years ago, people would have said MySpace is the future. 15 years ago, people would have said AOL is the future. And that's not a lot of time for major billion-dollar corporations to evaporate. People 5 years ago would have said Facebook's the future. Now you're starting to see a gradual decline of Facebook. Like, it's crazy to think about. But is Twitch just a phase or a fad? Potentially. But that's always in my mind, in that when we build something here, I don't go for, we're going to build a SimCity community, or we're going to build a Don't Starve community. My thought process is, we're going to build a lot of little communities, but inevitably they're all a community of gamers and people that want to spend time with each other and enjoy each other's company. So if Twitch decides, you know what, we're done here, we're going to sell, or if it just completely evaporates and then nothing more comes of it, we at least have something here where we can go into maybe another entire aspect of life. Who knows what that would be? I mean, I love gaming, so gaming's not going anywhere anyway. So you just take it in another direction. Somebody will build something.
Okay, just to tie in one question from Chad as well.
Okay.
What kind of dedication is needed? And what kind of advice would you give to someone looking at doing this as a... And we have to separate here. Like, you basically have two, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you basically have two styles of streamers. You have the ones that I just want to have fun. I just want to stream what I'm playing. I don't care. I don't have a schedule. I don't, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the other side where it's like, I want this. I want this as, my dream job or as my future. To those, what kind of advice and what kind of dedication is required to live that side of streaming?
I'm stealing this quote from somebody, and I don't remember who it is, but it's a quote that I keep in the front of my mind. And I found it about halfway through my streaming, and it was fail forward fast. The sooner you get used to disappointing yourself, the better you are. No person who's been extremely lucky or extremely successful has ever done it without failing a considerable amount of times. It's important that the night where you go look, and when you get to my level, you start to look at statistics and trends and different things to try to make yourself grow. And you look at those nights and you go, I just did 9 hours of streaming for a game that I absolutely adored and had a great community, but I got nothing out of it in terms of growth. And you have to understand why that happened and why solidifying a community. But inevitably, it comes down to, it's easy to get used to the fun times. I love the night we had 1,500 people in there because while I was down, I was dramatically reading. I hurt my throat that night. I was having such a good time. Everybody in here afterwards in TeamSpeak was going nuts. We were like, that was the greatest thing ever. And I said, guys, the first thing I said when I got done is, do not get used to this because you're going to be disappointed tomorrow. We run a 200 audience at night. I watched a video yesterday of a 13-year-old kid playing Minecraft. He was in tears because he had a 200 audience. He was going like this, thank you, this is the greatest moment of my life. Everything needs to be taken in stride and in perspective. And this is a glacial pace. If you're hoping to create something from nothing, it is glacial. You will not notice the progress until it immediately happens, and then it goes boom!
Yeah, there's a lot of luck.
A tremendous amount of positioning and luck. It's ridiculous. But
just out of curiosity, Mieu, what do you think of Dizzy's growth in this? Like, does it surprise you or?
I'm sorry.
Snort. So no, it's not surprising. I was looking for an opportunity to jump in before, I interrupt him all the time IRL, but I was trying to, hold myself back. But you're talking about like where he wanted to go with this. I mean, I think he's a born entertainer. This is who he is. I mean, before he was kind of, I wouldn't want to say like camera shy. He would always jump in front of a camera, but he never took kind of the initiative to start something. He was always like making videos, funny things, like just for our circle and for our immediate community. We were involved with hockey, and he made hilarious hockey related videos, kind of firing everybody up. This is who he is. And so, what was the question? where is this gonna go? It was basically and like did you expect this to happen, like this kind of growth? Oh yeah. So in my mind, I know that he maybe the snort was because of this. I'm always kind of like, show me the money. I don't believe something until it happens, but I definitely believe that he's capable of way more than this. And I think we were just talking about this recently, where he was like, maybe this is a little bit too much disclosure, but he's a little bummed. He kind of has his ups and downs, kind of as he,
The snort was for the growth joke, by the way.
Oh, the growth. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you don't mind me sharing this.
Hey, go for it. Open book.
A couple days ago, he's kind of feeling bummed. Kind of just looking at, other people. He's very hyper focused on, how he's trending, how other people are trending, and he can't help but notice when, people get front page who just kind of like go AFK and let their camera run. Like people who don't present such a quality stream like he does, and take such attention to detail that he does. And I still think that he's waiting on a certain level to be discovered. I think that he's definitely capable of even more than this. I'm not surprised by this growth. And he was a little bummed, and we were kind of talking through it, and I was like, you know what, you have 300 subs and an average viewership of 300 people. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like that's 300 regulars, 300 people that will watch you and are watching you for your personality, not for the game that you're playing, because you switch all the time. So these are people who are watching you for you, and that's really the crux of it. People are going to be, when TV goes away or whatever, people want to watch what they want to watch, and talk TV, talk radio has something that's been timeless, and people are going to be drawn to his personality. He's very charismatic, he's funny, he's a little bit off the beaten path. So, no, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy wearing Chester on his head.
Which I stole, by the way. This is not my look. A developer did this, and I said yes, and I did it immediately. And people are like, if I do this, people say they don't recognize me. Like, I gotta wear this to PAX.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that's like a demand. You gotta wander around PAX looking like that.
You run with what's successful. Yeah. The dramatic readings, another thing. People loved it. I mean, our audience was a 1,500 audience. 1,500 people were laughing their ass off, and it was just
yeah.
Go with it.
What? And I don't want to get to the end, but in the time you've been streaming, what are some of the low points you've had, and why were they low points?
You know what? I'll be really candid here.
Okay.
I'll give you the lowest point I can think of, and I don't know if I've ever shared this before. The lowest point that I think I ever had while streaming was getting on the plane leaving BlizzCon. And she will agree with that. She will absolutely agree with that.
I was unconsolable.
I was literally in tears. And
I did not help.
Because I went to BlizzCon and my mission was to help grow our stream. I mean, that was my focus. And it was to help, to have a great time, to hang out with G, to see BlizzCon. And you know what? BlizzCon was fun. It was awesome. We got to go there because of St. Jude, and I'm very appreciative of that. Seeing her in her cosplay was one of the greatest things ever. Absolutely ever. But I felt like I let myself and my community down while I was out there. And nobody else held me to that standard but me. I understand that. But there was an opportunity for me, a couple opportunities to meet several people at BlizzCon that slipped through the cracks through no fault of my own. And one of them I would say is my fault, and that was the Twitch party. I got to meet a couple of different people out of BlizzCon that I had talked to from Twitch, and it was awesome. It was great to finally meet these people and see that they're really, cool people. But I got in line for the Twitch party, and and it was huge. And there was no getting into this. And we had a flight in the morning. And G was actually there. G came out because G lives in Anaheim. And I was like, I can't stand this line. And now I'm surrounded in this line by a who's who in Twitch. Standing in front of me was Trump.
Yeah, it was.
Trump SC was standing in front of me. Right over here is Sacriel. Right behind me is Soda Poppin'. Who's who? I mean, I say 3 names. Some of you in chat don't. If you're a big Twitch person, you know who all 3 of those names are. To me, it didn't matter. My mission was to get in there, to have a talk with people and say, listen, we're here too. Can we have an opportunity? And I don't think I would have got that in the venue because it was a very loud music venue.
Club.
And it was, what it comes down to is Twitch pays very close attention to the people that make them money. And I understand that. I don't feel bad because of that. But I feel I have an obligation to take it to the next level. As a great person, one of the greatest people who ever lived said, Mr. Wayne Gretzky, you miss every shot you don't take. And what I did there is I didn't take a shot. I didn't take a shot. I had an opportunity to take a shot with a lot of people. And you know what? It might have gone bad, but it still would have been a shot. Yeah. And I didn't. And I let myself down. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'm just not ready to take this. And I kind of lost hope for a second there. And I needed a little bit of time to bring myself back out of that. And the flight home from BlizzCon, I was able to get out of that funk. But I also had to put stuff in perspective in that BlizzCon wasn't our only opportunity. And we're going to get more opportunities. And some of them will go bad. They're going to go atrociously bad. But that brings me back to what I was saying earlier. Fail forward fast. Yeah. Get used to that failure on every scale, and you'll be better off because of it.
Okay, let's switch this up. What is one of the highest points of your streaming career so far? The highest you could possibly have.
Do you want me to? I can think of a couple.
I was making a reaction because it really kind of puts things into perspective. I mean, that moment, I was feeling it. That post BlizzCon, just like, like why? Like we could have done so much better. But now that you're saying like, oh, what are the good points? I'm like, oh my god, I can't even pick one.
High so points. Many. I can list off a couple, but I don't want to ramble. I can almost list them off in order. When Maxis showed up in our channel, we had 50 viewers. When Terraria Logic showed up in our channel, we were doing Terraria, we had 100 viewers. We had Calypso show up in our channel and promote us. When we got that phone call that said we were going to BlizzCon for St. Jude, when we had our St. Jude donation drive, when we had 1,500 people in here for WoW, when we got hosted by Duck Sauce, who I met at GameStop Con, when I was on stage at GameStop Con. I mean, I could literally rattle and rattle and rattle. These are important moments in what we do and become important moments in my life as a product of that. When we became partnered, it was massive. When we raised the money for the stream machine, when we had a couple of sub trains in here, we had some follow trains. I mean, you notice this stuff. It affects you personally. Your mood this becomes an extension of you. And I think that description right there also kind of puts stuff in perspective in that I could think of the lowest point that I ever had on stream and I could give you intense details about how I was feeling about that, but I have a ton of really awesome things that have happened to me and I was just like, yeah, those are cool, and I'm just flying right through them. Yeah. How negative that feeling is just so permeating, and you just can't let it take control of you, and it will if you let it.
Okay, now Mieu, from your side of it, what are some of the high points you've seen him go through?
I want to say, for me, it was definitely when he was on the stage at GameScoutCon. I was watching from work, and I just was like in tears at my desk, and I was just like, he was just so elated, and I was like, this is it. This is the moment. I was like, this is what he wants, and this is just so amazing, this opportunity. I mean, to me, that was it. I mean, just to kind of see the look on his face. I mean, I've seen him have, these little successes and everything, but I just, maybe you just need a better camera, but the look on your face when you were at GameStop Con, I was just like, oh my God,
That was a great experience. All 3 casters I were with were awesome.
Now, I have to admit, my high point of your stream is twofold. It's basically 2 things. One is the community that is being built up around the Dizzy Dizaster channel.
Oh, okay? The best.
That is a high point. Every night, every day I go in there, it's a high point. The other one was when you crossed the $15,000 mark for St. Jude.
That was great. That was awesome.
Now, I have to ask you, why did you pick St. Jude as your stream charity?
That's a good question. One of the things that motivated me to get into streaming was I can't tell you if I've ever watched more than 5 minutes of PewDiePie. And he's the biggest YouTuber in the planet, by far. I never watched anything he did, but one thing I noticed was he did a massive thing for charity. Another thing is, different WoW streamers, people watch them, and I watched Soda Poppin' probably once, like 4 years ago. And then I saw he was doing something for charity, and I said, you know what? That's awesome. And I watched AVGN, or not AVGN, Angry Video Game Nerd did some charities too, which was very cool. But I watched Speed Games Done Quick, the summer edition, which is why I started in July. I watched them, and I knew they were doing this entire thing for charity. And I said, I want to be able to do that someday. It won't be tomorrow. It won't be in the next couple of years, but I'll be able to do it. So I said, screw it. Why don't we give it a shot and see if we can do something? So I looked around and I tried to find a reputable charity that I knew people could get behind, and also one that embraced the gaming community and gave them a little bit of a competitive thing toward it, let's say. And St. Jude had this tiered list of different people, and they said, hey, you can win a Twitch hoodie. And I said, you know what? I like those Twitch hoodies, and they're going to be hard to get. So I don't really want to buy one from somebody on eBay and have it mean nothing. I want to earn one, because there's different ways you can earn one through as a Twitchcaster too. If you broadcast at events, if you do certain charities, if you win certain things. And I said, I can earn one. It's $1,000 to earn one. We're doing it for a great charity. This is something I can get behind. They're very transparent, and they're helping out kids in video gaming. They're helping out the future. I said, I can get behind this. So we did it, and it went very good. And I put up my $100, my goal. I said, we could chunk this down, my $100 goal. And Joanna hit it. Joanna Hammond, one of our biggest supporters here, the biggest supporter currently, hit it. And she goes, you better update that number. And I said, oh boy, we're in for something great here. So I put it up to 1,000, and we hit that within a week. And then I put it up to 5,000, and it went slow for a while. And then one weekend it went boom. And it just so happened to be the week that coincided with Blizzard in the summer. And Blizzard in the summer is whoever raises the top amount of money here gets a trip to BlizzCon. And I honest to God, I had read over it, but it was never something that crossed my mind. And the only reason we won that at this size of community, which by the way, you guys are amazing, and I'm not taking anything from you, but Duck Sauce was on fire fundraising. He got sick at the beginning of that week and didn't come back for 2 weeks because he was so sick. If he had been there that week, I wouldn't have gone to BlizzCon. No chance.
Luck.
Exactly. We put ourselves in a position, we took a shot, and it just so happened to work out that way. But the fact that we raised $15,000 with a community at that time, I believe it was 17 or 18K when it ended, we raised almost $1 per follow. That's unheard of. I talked to Zach, our guy over at St. Jude. I talk to him pretty much every day. He's a really cool guy, but he said to me, because I went up to him at GameStop Con, which we also, the top 5 people who fundraised got a trip out to GameStop Con, which was a couple of weeks before BlizzCon. And a lot of people said no, because I wasn't in the top 5 at the time. I believe I was number 11 at the time. And I think six or seven different people were either groups or they just said no. And I met up with Zach, and I said, Zach, and I even said to Duck Sauce and EMD, Eat My Diction, and Ms. Vixen were there. And I said, you guys have communities of hundreds of thousands of subscribers and followers. And Duck Sauce said to me, he goes, dude, you did something that nobody's ever done before. And Zach says, in terms of numbers, nobody has ever raised money as quickly as you did in that period of time with a community of your size. It just hasn't been done.
Well, I know. I was in channel on that $4,000 night. And
it was insane.
It literally, it was. It was like, we didn't know what was going to happen next. It was just like,
crazy. Is
this going to stop or is this just going to keep on going?
Yeah.
The community is important. It is so important.
The most important thing in the stream.
How important?
Hands down.
How important is it to a successful charity drive?
You know, I mean, it is, because people will get behind something that you support, especially when they trust you. I think that there's a level of trust when somebody hits that sub button, or they want the emoticons, which I'm okay with too. Hey, you're helping to build a community, so. But I think that somebody who comes in here and says, and watches me for a couple of weeks, like there was one guy I was talking to last night. He said he'd been watching for a couple of weeks, and then I finally convinced him. And I get this a lot. Huh?
Epic Genius? Or
Oh, Epitaph was his name. Oh, Epic Genius was it as well, and Epitaph was as well.
Yeah.
There was two of them last night. But people invest their time. Like, if you do a doobie check in my channel, you can see the amount of time you've invested since we enabled the bot, since February, whatever. And you look at thousands of hours people invested in something that you've done, and you're just like, wow. So there is a level of trust there that people place in you. So when you put yourself behind something, whether it be a charity or it be a sponsor or something, people will be quicker to support it without doing that research, trusting you to do that research first, which I took very seriously and did the research first on it. But is the community important to that? Absolutely. I mean, our drive is a symbol of why a community is the most important thing. Calling exposure to it is important too. We give it a lot more airtime than, say, somebody like Duck Sauce would have. When he put his airtime on it, he raised a lot of money as well. But for us, all of our expenses go back to the stream. I'm not making this a living of mine, so I could spend more time on it. If this was something that I needed to survive, I may not spend as much time on it, maybe, but you have to find a balance that doesn't kill you and supports a charity as well. But community, it was very, very, very important.
Now,
and
I know through this most recent one, you're headed out to St. Jude in where?
Tennessee.
You're going down to what, their main hospital, or?
Yep.
What's that like, knowing that you're headed down there? You're going to meet these kids that maybe you've had a chance to make their lives a little better. Like, is there a sense of responsibility that comes into play here to make sure that you continue to do the good job?
Yes, I think there is. I think that there is a sense of accountability too. Like, we all trust and we know St. Jude, and we know that they're a good organization, and we've had that proven time and time and time again. But sometimes to see stuff with your own eyes really does kind of give you a perspective on what you've actually done and what they're doing. And it'll give me an opportunity to see firsthand that what we've done and validate it for me. Because sometimes you can trust and read and see and do everything, but sometimes you need to see things firsthand. Not that I'm saying that St. Jude isn't a good organization or anything, but it's helpful for me to go in there and really helps validate what I'm saying to you guys. If I've said, I've seen this operation firsthand and it's amazing. And this itinerary that they gave us is insane.
Well, yeah,
it is awesome.
Run through what they've got planned. Like, you're going down for how many days?
I'm flying in one day. It's considered a 4-day thing because you fly 2 days, so it's 2 full days with them.
So what kind of itinerary have they got you booked for?
They have me booked for, they're going to tour the facility. They have me booked for, we're going to sit down. I'm going to be with the top 50 YouTubers / Twitch people basically on the planet that have a tie into St. Jude. I'm going to be sitting down with different Twitch people. We're going to be talking crowdsourcing. We're going to be talking different ways to fundraise, to call attention to the charity. And one of the coolest things is going to happen on that second day. And they have 2 hours allotted that literally just says video games with the kids. We're going to sit down and play video games with the kids in the hospital. And I think that's insanely cool. Like, that is what I'm looking forward to most on that trip. That's going to be amazing.
Mieu, I see you sitting back there, and you've got this very beautiful smile on your face as he's talking about this. What's your thought on this side of it and the effect it's had on him?
I think, when you were saying, what are you going to get out of this when you go down there, I was like, man, if this doesn't really hit him hard as to the significance of what he did, it's gonna, if he doesn't already know it, once he goes there and he sees those kids, he has the chance to play video games with those kids and just see, his work at work, it's really just I think it's gonna be a mind-blowing scenario. I actually
It's gonna be
originally
awesome.
wanted to go down there with him, but that wasn't in the cards for us this year.
Yeah.
But I think that it's amazing. I think it's going to be so great, and I think it's going to be such a critical experience for him to kind of get exposure to that, that world, and the fact that he was able to kind of like dip his hands into it. And I think there's gonna be a lot of hype around it when he comes back.
So early too. Like I didn't expect this. I am humbled beyond words by the outpouring of support this community has had. It's just been unbelievable. I mean, I looked at it and I said, look at PewDiePie is able to do. Someday I'll be able to do that a couple of years down the road. Not even a couple of years later, we are number 8 on the top leaderboards for St. Jude. And that's YouTubers and Twitch streamers.
Yeah. Now,
Who knew?
Yeah, we'll sort of wind this down, but I know you're headed to PAX East and you're going with them, Mieu. From what I gather, a number of the Fallout crew are going to be there. What's your hopes and plans for being at PAX East? Why are you going to PAX East?
I'm going to put us on the map. It's a huge undertaking. I'm going to have to get us out there. But I think I can. I think we're at a point where people know who we are, but they don't know who we are yet. And that's my mission when I go out to PAX. A lot of people going out to PAX see all the different things, see all the different sites, all the new video games, meet their favorite casters. I'm going out there to meet with developers. I'm going out there to meet with people in the industry. I'm going out there to meet with some Twitch people as well and say, hey, listen, we got something really awesome going over here, and it's going to go somewhere very soon, and I want you to be a part of this because I really like what you're doing. And some people are going to say to me, who are you?
Yeah.
And some people are going to say to me, I'm not interested. I'm too big for you. But there is some people who are going to say, you know what? You gave me the time of day. I'm going to give you a shot. And there's a couple of opportunities that I might have to put myself out a little bit more in the spotlight, including a potential front page on Twitch, I hope. I don't know. What I've been told is I'm going to be on stage and the MLG stage playing Gauntlet with a bunch of other casters. So similar to the GameStop Expo.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's very important to me that what I get out of this, my whole energy is going into this. This community deserves more of a spotlight on it. We deserve something awesome, and I think this is great, and I have the energy that's been put in me by the people of this community to go out there and say, hey, we're here, we're not going anywhere, we're going up, you want to join us? Hop aboard, here we go.
Now, Mieu, I know you're going with him, and you are going cosplayed. Can you give us a hint or tell us who you are cosplaying at PAX East?
Yes, I'm going as the character Hell from Smite, which is a MOBA. I think I've spent more time working on this costume than I have actually playing Smite, but as soon as I started playing it, I loved it, and I saw the character, and I was like, oh, I love that costume. I'm going to make it. So, and I know that, Dizzy plays a lot of Smite. I think that Smite is actually a game that's going to have a big future.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a great game, and it has a lot going for it. So I think that, I'm excited for it. I think
it's looking really good. I got to see a little preview of it yesterday.
All right. Well, I think we will. Is there anything any final words that either one of you want to say? And maybe Scootaloo might have a few barks to toss in.
She's sleeping.
Oh,
little sausage.
Oh, sausage pup.
She's so happy to be with mommy and daddy.
Yeah. And any last words? Any last thoughts that either one of you might have about what's going on?
I've seen a lot of questions from chat, and it's stuff that if people they honestly want to know the answers, guys, I'm on every night. You're welcome to come over and ask me. You're welcome to send me messages. You're welcome to tweet them at me. I'm not too big where I ignore your stuff yet. But one I did see, and it's one that is important, and I know that there's not 15,000 people here, and I know we're not being hosted by the biggest channel on Twitch, and you're not seeing somebody who has 10 billion trillion follows, but I'm going to say this from perspective of somebody who blood, sweat, and tears every follow that we got. Panda asked, I believe it was Panda asked, what are some tips that you can give to smaller streamers? And obviously I said fail forward fast and don't let disappointment knock you down, but it's important that you go out there and you do your research and you understand your emotions when it goes out toward other people, because they're going to change. Your mind's going to change. Your perspective is going to change. Your judgment is your own worst enemy. Do the research yourself on other people and other communities and things that are going on in the industry. People on Twitch are not big exclusively because of what they've done on Twitch. There is not a single person who is up there, and your dog agrees.
Yes.
There's not a single person up there on Twitch who is big because of exclusively what they've done on Twitch. Even the people who are primary Twitch, it's because of what they've done in networking with developers and other people, networking with their community, and getting everything rocking and rolling is why they're so big. So it's important that you understand that it's not just, okay, we're going to play Minecraft today, turn the camera off, go to bed, and I'm successful. Doesn't happen like that.
No.
Never.
No.
And even if you get rated by, let's say you get rated by the Lyric or Syndicate, two of the biggest casters on Twitch, those viewers are going to come in there, they're going to spend a night in there, you might get more follows in a night than I currently have. But that's it. You're not going to have a captive audience hanging around. The people want to invest themselves into something that they see you investing yourselves into. And I believe that people can see exactly what my intentions are through this camera. They know I'm not full of crap. They know I'm genuinely behind this. And if you don't, I don't know another way to express it. Yeah. But it's important to show people that.
Any last thoughts or words or
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of make a mention, I forget at which point, but I wanted to say that I'm really proud of the community that we have here and just the image that the channel has as a whole. Just as a community that goes out and raids people every night.
Yes.
Goes and sees big streamers, small streamers, always puts their best foot forward. I'm very proud of Dizzy, not to kind of wax, get super wordy about this or anything, but Dizzy's very passionate. You can tell that. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and there are a lot of other streamers like that. I mean, I think that's the curse and the blessing of an entertainer, but sometimes they can let it get to them, and I think that Dizzy has done a great job. Again, always putting his best foot forward, no matter how strongly he felt about something. He was always open-minded. He was always fair. You see every other day other streamers who, rage on stream or do something controversial, and, gets their name out there and everything. But I think that we've built a community, Dizzy and everybody who follows him has built a community that, you hear Dizzy Dizaster and it's like, it's a good thing, there's a lot of integrity and it's still not at the cost of authenticity. And I think that that's something that's awesome in my mind. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, wearing a heart on your sleeve, seeing Jude play live right there.
That's your heart?
Yeah.
That's your heart?
That's
Not this.
You can get on my sleeve too.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks. I want to thank everybody that followed today. I know I didn't get a chance to thank you personally, but it's like I didn't want to ruin the flow of the conversation. So thank you very much for all the follows. Thank you to Dizzy. Thank you to Mieu. Thank you to Scootaloo for being on the debut show of the interviews. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a regular Sunday afternoon show, folks. We are going to try and interview some of the best streamers that I personally want to interview and sit down and talk with. Hopefully we can get game devs in here, or we can get just pure gamers. But don't forget, tonight at 12 a.m. we're back with Late Night with Cranky and Friends.
Who's on tonight?
Let me just check the calendar. Who have we got on? I believe, what are we, the 22nd? It is Ginger and Red Mage are on tonight.
Oh, cool. Ginger. I haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah, she's been really sick. And then she had some stuff that she had to take care of. So, yeah, we had to book around her. But on that note, folks, thank you for joining us. We hope you've had an enjoyable afternoon. And we will see you later this evening for Late Night with Cranky and Friends. But until then, remember, folks, 2 important words. Game on.
Woo!